Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and I'm back at Horror Hands Beach, back here for a few days enjoying the seaside. So again, while I'm in this place, I'll bring you another beach themed video. So for this video, I thought it would be fun to go through some of the best, worst and funniest Jaws rip-offs. Got a couple of movies for each category. Hopefully enjoy this one. You've got some nice scenery to look at in the meantime. So yeah, best, worst and funniest Jaws rip-offs. Let's get straight to it. So first movie for one of the best Jaws rip-offs is The Last Shark from 1981. Yeah, one of the best ones in my opinion. The one that clearly follows a lot of the Jaws tropes, the same token characters, not being able to shut down the beaches for some commercial reason, but does kind of go off and do its own thing as well in places. It's also one of the few Jaws rip-offs that I can think of that does have its own practical effects mechanical shark, which is cool. And although it doesn't look great, it's still a giant mechanical shark jumping out of the sea, so I've got to give it that. The characters in it are pretty good, like I say, the same as Jaws, but you do have Vic Morrow doing his best Robert Shaw impression, which is pretty impressive. And as I mentioned, The Last Shark does have some pretty awesome moments that kind of separate it and elevate it a bit from other Jaws rip-offs. I think most notably is the scene with the guy getting bit in half whilst hanging off a helicopter. That's a wonderful slice of exploitation horror cinema right there. So straight away for me, one of the best Jaws rip-offs is The Last Shark. Next of the best Jaws rip-offs is Grizzly from 1976. Virtually the same film as Jaws, but taking place on land in the woods. Indeed, one of the charms of Grizzly is kind of seeing how they managed to shoehorn the action of Jaws from the ocean into the woods on land. But it's a great film. It's a giant bear going around killing people in the woods. The authorities want to shut the woods down, but the park owner doesn't want to because of some illustrious thing that's happening in the next few days. So a sheriff, a bear hunter and a bear expert go off into the woods to hunt it down. It's Jaws, pretty much. You know, substitute the scenes of the Orca sailing across the ocean in search of the barrels for a helicopter, flying over the woods looking for a bear, and you get the idea. It's even got the obligatory USS Indianapolis scene where I think it's Richard Jekyll who does the whole like, went to a summer camp once, bears turned up, killed everyone, that kind of thing. And it's supposed to be kind of serious and morose, but it's just sort of more funny than anything else. But Grizzly I do still think is a great film. It looks wonderful, the cinematography is beautiful, and they really utilise the forestry area, obviously a different film to a beach-themed Jaws rip-off, but it is really good. I also want to say that Grizzly was actually the highest grossing film of 1976. I'm sure I've heard that. I have no means of checking that here on the beach, but you know what, I'm going to go for it and say that Grizzly was the highest grossing film of 1976. Someone will correct me if not, but that's pretty awesome. I know it did very well. So yeah, next great Jaws rip-off is Grizzly. Now I was going to include Deep Blue Sea from 1999 as one of the best Jaws rip-offs, but I actually don't think it is. Other than being a killer shark film, I think kind of Deep Blue Sea goes off and does its own thing with sort of the underwater research station and the sharks being super smart and breaking out and eating everyone. It really is its own film, and I think it does it a bit of a disservice to kind of lump it in as a Jaws rip-off. So I was thinking of Deep Blue Sea as one of the best ones, but I'm going to leave it off for the aforementioned reasons. On to some of the worst Jaws rip-offs. And first up is Deep Blood from 1989. One that I really wanted to enjoy, but unfortunately I was very underwhelmed by this one. I'd never seen it before, and it came out on Blu-ray and I bought it straight away, but yeah, it's not a great movie. It's kind of dull and doesn't really do anything, to be honest. It's kind of a very much a Frankenstein's monster of Jaws rip-offs, in that it takes scenes here and there from other movies, mostly Jaws 1, 2, 3, 4 and The Last Shark, and just splices things together but kind of forgets to be entertaining with it. It's a movie that I watched it and pretty much forgot it straight away. Not on purpose, because it just really didn't land on my radar very much. So yeah, unfortunately, Deep Blood, one of the worst Jaws rip-offs. Next up is one of the worst Jaws rip-offs, and this one might get me into a bit of trouble because I know this one is a popular movie, but it's Orca from 1977. This is just not a movie that resonates with me. I don't particularly like it. It's never really worked for me personally. So this one, you see Richard Harris as like a fisherman hunter who kills the female orca and the baby orca, which leaves the male orca to go on a revenge-fueled thing against him. And I think for me, it's that kind of the killing of the female orca, and particularly the baby orca, doesn't really go down well with me. I know it's kind of the catalyst for the story of this one, but I didn't particularly enjoy that. I didn't think it was very well done, and I thought it was a little bit in poor taste, which kind of set the movie off on a bit of a negative tone. The rest of the movie, it's okay. It's hokey in places, it's a bit boring in places, but it's not one that I'm a huge fan of. I do quite like the ending of this movie. I think it's up in Antarctica, where they have the showdown between the orca and Richard Harris. That makes for some good scenery and good cinematography. But other than that, Orca is just not one that I'm ever quick to put on or recommend. Now, another consideration for this category is the epic Sharknado. But again, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum to Deep Blue Sea. I don't really think Sharknado is all that much of a Jaws rip-off. It's kind of more just riffing on all those other crazy CGI-filled sci-fi movies. And again, kind of opposite to Deep Blue Sea, I think it does Sharknado a disservice to call it a Jaws rip-off. It's, I don't know, it's more than that if you like. Call this a subtle compliment for Sharknado if you like, but I don't quite consider it a Jaws rip-off. And on to some of the funniest Jaws rip-offs. And the first one is Cruel Jaws from 1995. One of the most unintentionally hilarious and therefore entertaining of the Jaws rip-offs. It's shameless in its copying and sort of lack of any original content. It sort of does what Deep Blood does, but in a much more fun way, where it splices together different scenes and shark scenes from other movies, mainly the Jaws films and The Last Shark. But there's no kind of consideration or appreciation for continuity or anything like that. The shark will appear in scenes and look different from one scene to the next. It's all over the place, but it's just so wonderfully entertaining. It's even got the famous looking, the Hulk Hogan character, this guy here, who again just makes me laugh. Even he doesn't feel like an organic character. I feel like they've taken another popular culture reference and gone, how can we bastardize this? And throw in a Hulk Hogan-like character. So yeah, just seeing him on screen makes me smile. But Cruel Jaws is not a good movie at all. But if you want like the epitome of trashy, hilarious shark B-movie exploitation, this is probably the one. If you want a so bad it's good shark night, definitely check out Cruel Jaws. And another one of the funniest Jaws rip-offs you'll see is Blades from 1989. Another one taking place on land. This does exactly what Jaws does, but instead of a killer shark in the ocean, it's a killer lawnmower on a golf course. Yeah, do I need to say anything else? And somewhat similar to Grizzly, this does exactly the same thing of Jaws. It copies it almost scene for scene, in some places dialogue for dialogue. And an interesting thing happens with Blades is, even though it's a really silly film, it almost by accident becomes a great movie because it's just channeling Jaws. It does what Jaws does, so it can't really help but be good in places and have some actually like meaningful dialogue and a sort of a fluent, effective series of events. But like I say, only because it's doing Jaws. It's an interesting one. It kind of cheats the system a little bit, does Blades. But yeah, the concept of a killer lawnmower for me is never not going to be an interesting one, and it's Blades is one that I always have fun watching. It's just a real good, enjoyable B movie, and there's the added fun and entertainment of sort of spotting all the Jaws copying methods throughout this one. So yeah, definitely one of the funniest ones I've seen is Blades. And I'll throw in one more sort of bonus, really funny Jaws rip-offs as well. And I've got to mention the scene in Police Academy 5 where Tackleberry, the gun-crazy officer, scares away the shark cruising its way up to Miami Beach. And really fun scene. No one ever talks about that scene, and it's really good. And it is actually a practical looking shark, which is awesome. I don't know what happened to that, but fair play to them for creating that, just for that one little scene. But I've always loved that bit in Police Academy 5 with the killer shark. So there we go, guys. That's some of the best, worst and funniest Jaws rip-offs in my opinion. Let me know what you think about that, if you've seen any of the movies, and if you consider them in the same way that I do. I'd love to know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.